What's up, best friends? It's Brian Deach, and today we're going to talk about Zero Trust SD-WAN. But before I get into how sexy Zscaler does it, let's kind of like frame the problem that we're trying to solve for here. So when you think SD-WAN back in the day, probably think of data centers and branch offices. So I'll come over here and say, you have a branch, no big deal. And when I say branch, don't get turned off. It could be a hospital, it could be a clinic, manufacturing facility, factory, doesn't matter. What do you have at your branch? Now, depending at your vertical, probably has some users hanging out over there. Perhaps you have some workloads. You know, that's server-based traffic. Maybe you have some B2B connectivity as well, going into the branch. And last but not least, we're all victims of it. IoT, 100%, and maybe even some OT in your network. And when we think about this, where are these users, these applications, these workloads going? Well, they want to eventually get out to the internet. We got users, right? And what are users doing? They're going out and they're checking their AOL email. Is that even a thing? I don't even know anymore. But maybe they're going out to websites like briandeach.com, riddled with malware. Shifting gears, let's say that they're actually going to work, right? They're going to do their job. So they're going out to maybe some of the SaaS-based applications. So things are moving around. Come over here. You have your M365 of the world, maybe Salesforce.com, ServiceNow, all great reputable companies that are out there. Of course, you probably have a data center, a couple of data centers that are out there. Might be getting out of the data center business. Might be just consolidating. And when you think about the data center, come over here. Doesn't really matter if you have 1, 2, or 10, right? At the end of the day, you kind of have, something here that your users, your workloads, your IoT devices now might have to talk to, right? We've got applications. We'll keep it simple. Applications 1, 2, and 3. But like most companies, you guys are probably making the shift and saying, you know what, we're moving to the private cloud as well, or public cloud, whatever you want to call it. So your usual suspects, right? GCP, Azure, AWS, maybe you have some OCI, whatnot. And maybe you have moved some of your applications over here, applications 1 and 2. And maybe you have applications that solely only exist right here, like maybe application 5. So when you look at this, back in the day, did the whole castle and moat thing, had MPLS, and you just backhauled that stuff at the data center. Ouch, right? Like that was costly. So you kind of, you shifted gears, and what did you think? Well, you heard about this whole SD-WAN architecture. So SD-WAN, right? You have your little appliance hanging out over here, and its goal is to talk back to the data center. And you have some sort of head end for that. And I don't really care what anyone says. You can't, I think SD-WAN and site-to-site VPN is still kind of the same thing. You know that Spider-Man meme that's out there where it's like pointing at each other like this, right? I think it's the same thing. But on paper, right, we look at this and we say, well, that's not too bad, right? It's a mesh. It's a network. It's here to do its thing. I would like to argue that it becomes a very complex routed network, makes troubleshooting really kind of a pain in the neck. So when you look at this, one of the benefits is like, oh wow, we can go directly out to the internet now and allow our users to do that and have a better overall user experience. And then for users that have to, or IoT or OT, devices that come back over here to your public cloud or even the data center, say, oh, well, you know what we have is like, we can do SD-WAN over here as well. And that's cool. So it kind of looks like this. And SD-WAN really is just about connectivity. It's about moving stuff quick, and security, not really a thing. And so you start to look at this, you're like, okay, this is great. This is, yeah, we got draft going different directions, but we got this. And then what happens? Network team, we're happy with this. Security comes through, it's like, timeout. We don't want to have to deploy firewalls over here. Our firewalls, Is this back over here at the data center, right? And you're gonna tell me you're gonna send this traffic out from the branch? That's not zero trust. There's no security going on right here. So what happens, right? They pull it back, no more traffic going in this direction. There's a lot of political things going on. And when the dust settles, the idea is we send all internet traffic back over here, run it through our stack of security appliances, bring it back over in this direction, and let it do its thing. Now, sometimes you might have a scenario in which they're like, well, you know what? We trust some sanctioned applications like M365 or Salesforce. Maybe we can allow that traffic to go out there, but maybe not all SaaS is created equal. So then you're coming over here and saying, well, you know, these 3 applications can go direct, but the other one's got to come over here. But even when it's going direct, that's not zero trust, right? Like we trust it because we know it, but that's, you know, my nephew, right? He's like, we were at the pool the other day. My little brother was going to throw him in the pool. He's like, just trust me. And my niece, nephew was like, I trust nothing. And he just ran away. It was great. But I digress. So we look at this, we have this network, this mesh, and trying to figure out if there's a challenge somewhere going on. It's like, well, do we troubleshoot here or over here, or like, but which way are you going? Like is this, it becomes very problematic. And then as we shift gears, since this is really just kind of this routed network where the branch is an extension of the data center and vice versa, and the private cloud, that means you have the ability to do lateral movement. Now again, on paper, it's a great idea, right? We need our users to be able to access applications, but that's not zero trust. Same thing with IoT workloads, B2B. Like just because one thing can talk to application 1 doesn't mean they can talk to applications 2 and 3. Now, I get it. Back at the data center, you might have the quote-unquote internal network, and then like maybe the keys of the kingdom are often a DMZ, like some sort of database. Like that's locked down, but not everything else. But again, that's not zero trust. So we started to think about this. When you have like this open network, and it works in all directions, from here to here, or from here to here, up, down, left, right, it becomes a mess. It becomes an attack surface because these applications are sitting here, doing their thing, and they're exposed. That attack surface is there, which means if this IoT device is somehow compromised and it's on the network, that means this IoT device might be able to come over here and start talking to these other applications that it shouldn't be able to talk to. Or maybe even like Active Directory. We all know what those bad guys are up to. Get the identity, take over the world. So when we start to think about that, you can't bolt zero trust onto SD-WAN, right? If you think you can, I think you've been watching way too many, you know, Lifetime movies and drinking Chardonnay. Like it's a heavy lift to do zero trust. And I wholeheartedly believe, I think that the more appropriate way is to go with a platform that started with zero trust, continuous access evaluation, right? And this decides to add it on as a feature to steer traffic from here up to a zero trust platform. And that's where Zscaler comes in. So through the power of post-editing, I'm going to clean this up a little bit and then we'll jump right into it. And we're back. Here's the part of the video we get to talk about cool new stuff from Zscaler. So this is where we get to enter in Zero Trust SD-WAN. So I'm going to draw up right here. This is the Zscaler cloud. Anything in blue is kind of Zscaler. So we're going to come over here. Sorry about the squeaking. It's cold. Things are going to happen, you know. I appreciate you for watching though. So we look at this and the first glance is, okay, Brian, I don't understand. I got Zero Trust SD-WAN, or as I like to call it, like Zero Trust networking. How does that factor in with my branches if you said I don't need to have routers, I don't need to have SD-WAN, like I don't need my old appliances anymore. How do I do that? Well, good news is we have something called Zscaler Connector. Comes over here, and you won't believe this. Not only is it available as a VM, but yes, a cloud-based company is now making hardware. We have a hardware appliance for your branch offices to dynamically steer traffic up to the Zero Trust SD-WAN cloud. What does that mean to you? Well, you're still going to get your high availability, multiple ISP link and all that good stuff, but the idea is we can transparently intercept that traffic, send it here in this direction, and then if if you've seen any of my other videos, the underlying note is to allow the good, block the bad, and stop the stupid. So not just embracing the internet and SaaS, but the same way that we leverage our app connectors over here, all kind of points into the same direction. And the idea is we want to extrapolate everything, make every single application, IoT, OT, B2B, workload, and user its own little island to help reduce the attack surface and the blast radius of anything going on. Same thing over here at the data center. I have my little connector. If you're not familiar with it, it's called Zscaler Private Access, but it all dovetails nicely together. So as you can see, kind of all roads point to Zscaler. And the benefit that you get in all of this isn't that we have a new, hardware offering. Yes, that's great, but it's really the intelligence or the AI-powered policy that you get on the back end. Every time I write that squiggly bracket, I always get worried that it's not going to look great. Anyways, going back to this AI policy. So some of the nice things that you get with this is going to be like UEBA. So the ability to dynamically look at user risk, behaviors, and all that good stuff. We can do device risk as well. So think of those workloads, IoT, OT, that B2B connection. Next, we'll be doing the SSL and TLS inspection. Because let's be real, like the bad actors and the stuff, they're hanging out at layer 7. You have to be able to decrypt that. And the biggest reason there is it helps stop data loss and prevent compromise. The next one is going to be around third-party integrations. So the ones I'll share with you today, and it's kind of cool, we are sharing telemetry between us, Microsoft, CrowdStrike, and Okta, which means you don't have to be a customer of those 3 companies to reap the benefits of the stuff that they're getting. Now, the next part to the Zscaler Cloud is that I have 150 points of presence globally, 40 million users on my cloud at any given point in time. I'm moving like 4.2 terabits per second. And that's not just users. I'm talking about workloads, B2B, IoT, OT connectivity. And that translates to about 500 trillion signals that I can use to help modify the behavior of your applications. And ultimately, what I'm really trying to do is I want to help diminish risk. I want to say if user A, or workload 10, or B2B user number 14, or IoT device number 3, has a reason to talk to application 1, permit that traffic. But if they don't have a reason to talk to application 2 or 3, then isolate them entirely, right? All done right here, leveraging the Zscaler connector to forward traffic to the Zero Trust SD-WAN cloud. So then I look at that, you start to think, okay, well, if I'm locking this down, I'm really trying to minimize that lateral movement, right? In theory, I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of hugging these users and these workloads, and I'm identifying what's good, what's bad, and only allow these devices to actually communicate with the applications that's intended. What that really means is if this IoT or this OT device has no reason to talk to application 5, then it just can't get there, right? And when I say right, I'm assuming that you know it. What that really means is it's gonna be like a soup Nazi moment. You're gonna land right here, the business probably is gonna look and be like, hey, can this thing talk to this? Absolutely not. So in that scenario earlier, where this IoT device was breached and that command and control and that maybe that third-party threat actor is trying to bounce around the network like a gosh darn field mouse, well, they can't because there is no network. I'm isolating everything down individually. That way I can't bounce around and talk to things I'm not allowed to talk to. Since I am doing that TLS inspection, it makes it easy that if something's pulling something bad down, I can block it. Again, I can focus in on the third-party integrations, the 500+ trillion signals that we get as well. And last but not least, if I am trying to do something bad, I'm trying to exfiltrate some type of PHI, PII, PCI type of data, being able to decrypt that and being able to stop data loss is really one of the key pillars here in embracing Zero Trust SD-WAN. So we look at this entire platform, not only is it adding a new appliance to the mix and retiring a bunch of old stuff, but it's embracing you to be able to do things a lot easier. All roads point here. Troubleshooting becomes exponentially easier. Securing becomes exponentially easier. Leveraging the AI policy to help enforce this and make it more secure, much easier. So with all that said, that's my time. I appreciate you for taking time to watch this. Please contact our sales team, leave a comment, find me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to talk with you about this in further detail. That's all I got. Thank you.